Hello, this is the Captain Paxo, welcoming you back to another episode of Quenching the Thirst in Dark Souls. I'm kind of just going through Sen's Fortress at the moment, over and over to try and get some souls. I don't have the trap to save me. I thought I could recover in time. I've been messing up my parries real good today. Yeah, and I'm done. Been trying to do dual wielding, and I'm not too sure if I like it or not. It's fun. It's very aggressive, and you can definitely pull some interesting stuff off, but the shield's just so good. This is actually the same character that I was using in the last episode. Intelligence, Dex. But a different setup, obviously. Alright, well we got one of them. Fuck me. What am I doing? I'm playing Dark Souls 3 with that like split-second delay on the parries. It doesn't come out instantly. I don't know. I'm doing something wrong though. I'd rather not get knocked over by the pendulums. I was kind of thinking, like... Stop it. I was kind of thinking what kind of builds I'm going to be wanting to do, or rather, more specifically, what kinds of setups do I want to... Fuck me, dude, I'm so bad! What kind of setups do I want to do in Dark Souls Remastered? Because when it comes to me, I prefer to make generalized builds as opposed to specialized ones, because if I make a generalized build, then I can give that build different setups. So if I make a dexterity build, then that dexterity build can use a katana, it can use a straight sword, it can use certain great swords, it can use certain halberds, it can use curved great swords, it can use a variety of dexterity weapons, and I'm not just limited to just one setup, you know? And that's just how I prefer to make builds, is in a rather generalized manner. However, there are some instances where a specialized build is actually more preferable, and I was kind of thinking, I had an idea the other night, middle of the night, whilst I was in bed, where most of my good ideas come from is just this random light bulb moment in the middle of the night, and I get really excited. I'm like, ooh, I want to do this idea, but alas, you know, middle of the night is rarely a good idea to start working on anything, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. But I had this idea for like a kind of like a fire and ice build. I was going to call it like Hell and Soul, where it was going to use crystal magic and pyromancy. So like crystal homing soul mass, crystal soul spear, white dragon breath, and then just whatever pyromancies I wanted, like great combustion, fire tempest, great chaos fireball, or whatever really, you know. Can I upgrade it? Yay, I can! +8. I now feel pretty confident in taking on Anor Londo. Not really. Now let's go clear out New Londo and maybe ascend, get enough souls to be able to buy more Titanite to ascend the Yaito. But as I was thinking about this build that I kind of wanted to do, or this setup, rather, I was thinking, what sort of build would I need to be able to do it? Well, I'd need a good amount of intelligence, obviously like 50 intelligence to be able to use White Dragon Breath. And I would need a good amount of dexterity to be able to do a fast cast speed, preferably 45, because that's where that caps out. And then obviously a good amount of attunements. And I was kind of thinking, well, hang on a minute. This build has all of those things. It has attunement, dexterity, and intelligence. So maybe I could just slap it onto this build. You know? Thing is, though, this build has invested a few points into strength. I have 14 at the moment. Didn't always have 14 on this build. Right? So if I want to do that, if I want to do this, like, fire and ice setup with this character, then, well, I'm going to have some points spent in some rather questionable places that I could have put elsewhere, you know? So the potential for getting my character to mid-max, I suppose would be the correct term, is kind of lost in me putting some points into strength to be able to use certain dex weapons. So in that instance, I think, well, maybe I should go and make a specialized build, especially because this build is going to require, like, potentially 6 attunement slots, which is kind of ridiculous, but also kind of the nature of the beast. So, yeah, I just think, like, maybe it would just be better to make a specialized build for it. Alright, let's see if we can actually parry these Dark Wraiths correctly. Because I haven't been doing particularly well on that front. What are you doing? What are you doing? 1, 2. There we go. No drops. I do quite like kicking illusory walls. Alright. But then my Faith Dex build, or rather my what do you call it? Health regen build. That kind of works better as a specialized build as well, because I need 2 attunement slots. Well, I'm not too sure if I want to use Bountiful Light or just Recovery. Because... or Replenishment, sorry. Because at least in Dark Souls 3, Soothing Sunlight is a lot stronger than Replenishment. However, with Sanctus and with a lifesteal weapon, I'm not really sure if I necessarily need a stronger buff like that. Whoops. Fuck that up real good. I'll take it. Alright. You have a lot of life. I want to get rid of these skulls. That's not how you get rid of the skulls. There we go. But if I was doing another Faith Dexterity build, maybe I'd want more attunement slots. Maybe I'd want more, or less strength, maybe. Maybe I'd want something different. Maybe more vitality, maybe less endurance. Maybe I want to do like a low poise setup. I don't know. Or something different. I just want to reallocate my points somewhere. Maybe I want more points into Faith. Maybe I want to use different miracles that are just a lot more expensive, you know? Could be anything. So it all depends, doesn't it? But we'll see how it all works out in the end. There's going to be no shortage of me messing around, testing out different builds in the remaster. It's going to be the good old bread and butter of the game, isn't it? Just making builds, testing them out, finding they're a bit shit, and just redoing them. Because a lot of people really like to use Mugen Monkey for their builds, and I do too. But the problem with Mugen Monkey is that's just a template. You have absolutely no idea if the equipment that you've given that character is equipment that you're gonna like. Like, you've no idea that, like, say, for example, maybe you've given them not enough vitality. Maybe you feel like this character just dies way too quickly and you can't equip any more armor because you've only given them the amount of endurance that you need to be able to equip all the armor and stuff. Very large ember. And that's all we need. You know, maybe you want to use a different weapon. Maybe you wanted to add an offhand weapon or a backup weapon or something like that. But you don't know until you mess around with the build in game and go, well, hang on a minute, actually. I would kind of like a few more points into endurance or something, you know? Just something like that. How many do I need? I need 2 and then another 3, so I need 5. Okay. I don't have enough souls for that. I'm going to have to use some soul items. Because I need 20,000 souls for that many. Alright. That should be just about enough. Bugger. Alright. But I think when the remaster comes out, I might like make a video on how I go about making builds, because I think it's kind of different to how... Oh shit. I think it's kind of different to how most people go about making builds. Because like I said, a lot of people like to rely on Mugen Monkey, which again, not a bad decision. It's a very good, it's a very useful resource, to say the least. That hit me? Wow. There's the bleed. There we go. Get that Yaito strike. Because the way I create a build, for PvP, mind you, it's not for PvE. I tend to make characters to go to like level 40, for example. So even if it's a build that I want to take up to like soul level 120, I'll take it up to 40 and then just see how the build plays out. I'll give it the base required stats for the very basic equipment that I'll use. So say for example with my health regen build, I'll give it like 16 16 dexterity. No, sorry, 16 strength, which is the minimum requirements to be able to two-hand the server, and then however much dexterity is. And then I'll give it 18 faith to be able to use Sanctus and replenishment. I'll give it 1 attunement slot, and then I'll just buff up my I'll buff up my vitality and endurance until I reach soul level 40, and then at that point I will mess around with that build in PvP, in like Anor Londo or Sans Forge or something, just to see how do I like this build. What do I want? Do I need a buff? Do I feel like I need a buff, or should I just like increase my damage stats? You know, is gold pine resin enough? Do I want to take my faith all the way up to 30 to be able to use Sunlight Blade or Dark Moon Blade or something? Like, is that something that I really need to do? Do I want to add Wrath of the Gods? How exactly does this build play? What is it lacking? What do I want more of? And then, you know, I have plenty of soul levels to work with that. Because if I just take a build all the way up to soul level 120 and find, well, actually, I'd quite like to have an extra, like, 10 soul levels in endurance, for example. Well, I can't do that because that put me up to soul level 130, you know? Which isn't going to be particularly great for me, because it's going to reduce the amount of players that I'm going to be able to play with. Right? So the idea is you work out the kinks of your build early on, so you can then figure out, also you can then kind of perfect it, in a sense, for when you do eventually get to soul level 120. That's just how I like to do it, you know. And the reason why I go to soul level 40 is because, I might as well. In Anor Londo, you can find a lot of traffic from anywhere between soul level 40 all the way up to soul level 60, and even 70 you can still find a good amount of traffic. So I like to take my characters to soul level 40, mess around with them, see what I'm lacking, seeing what I'd like, bring this, and then slowly but steadily bring their soul level up to like soul level 60, and then see how I like the build there, and kind of test it, experiment with it, mess around with it at that point, and then we'll see what else I need. And usually at that point it's just like, well, let's just increase our damage stats and our health and endurance, you know. So at that point, you've taken a build that you've created from Mugent Monkey and you've troubleshooted it, essentially. You've kind of dabbled with it and seen what works and what doesn't work, and what you want to improve with it, and what is perfectly fine to leave as is, you know? But that'll probably be like a whole like 20-minute video or something like that. Speaking of 20-minute video, I've been going on for quite a while, and I might call it quits once we get to the bonfire. Oh, that's dealing a lot more damage, that's nice. Because I did take out the Iron Golem. Alright. What's the durability on my weapons doing? I'm on 80. Oh wait, 80 out of 80. That's good. It's not bad. Good. I was a little bit concerned there. Because of course durability in later games goes down a hell of a lot quicker than it does in Dark Souls 1. In Dark Souls 1, you could probably go throughout the entire game without having to repair your weapons. I'm back in Anor Londo. I had some trouble the other day in Anor Londo with my other character. Well, it was a health regen night work in progress, but unfortunately, when I was fighting the Phantom, the Red Phantom of Leroy, I kind of knocked him off the cliff, And if you don't know, the only way you can get Sanctus is by picking it up off of the Leroy's Phantom when you kill him. So if he falls off a cliff, no Sanctus for you. So at that point, it's kind of just like, well, you know, we've got 3 options here. Owie. There we go. We've got 3 options. We could continue through New Game Plus and probably spend another 15 to 20 hours to try and get another Sanctus. Or we could delete the character and restart and spend another 10 hours getting a Sanctus and getting the character back to where it was. Or we could just call it quits and wait for the remaster to come out. I think I'm gonna go with option number 3. I might want to put a shield on for this part. I'm not very confident with doing this. Like I said, this part gave me a lot of trouble yesterday. Yeah, suck it. Although I do have some ranged options. Not great ranged options, but ranged options nonetheless, so let's give it a go. Please fall off. Please, thank you. Hey! I don't like doing this run up because I like to try and jump off of the balcony. But if the Painting Guardian rushes towards you, then you have to fight him. He's rushing towards us. Okay. Don't you dare. Whew, we made it. If you want to do that jump, do not block. If you try and jump whilst blocking, you just do a roll. I learned that yesterday as well. Boy, did I have a lot of troubles with this area. Ah! Bastard. Oh, you want some? Alright, then, come here. I don't think you can critical on this gondola. Reason why I said that is because I actually had an instance in Dark Souls 3 where I parried a pair of gankers on this gondola in Anor Londo. I parried them like 6 or 7 times, but I could not get the riposte because it's on a fucking elevator and it just didn't work for some reason. It was infuriating because it kind of cost me the fight, because those players were not good players. They were parry bait. Obviously, I managed to parry them like 6 or 7 times. But of course, because I couldn't get the riposte, I couldn't do the damage necessary to be able to defeat them, and they ended up winning the Estus race. Really fucked me off. Alright. Well, we are at the base of the archers, the infamous Anor Londo archers. So, I think we'll call it quits for now, and we'll probably come back at a later date, depending on how long this footage is. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Alright, and back with part 2 of the video. Just hunting some dark wraiths at the moment, but as the cat immediately interrupts me trying to get into my room, I'll do it in a second as I fail at parrying this dark wraith. Alright, cat. Yeah. There you go. Alright, and I am back. Had a little interruption with the cat. And a few hours difference. Maybe a day or two, actually, since the last recording. Come here, Darkwraith. 1, 2, flip, and parry. But I was just thinking about stacking poise, and because poise, everybody seems to think that poise, everyone's just going to stack poise. Poise, poise, poise. Poise is the word. It's not bird. Poise. Poise, poise, poise. Poise is the word. But one of the things that I think a lot of people have forgotten, I think I've mentioned previously. If I have, I apologize, but we're going to be having this conversation again. But there are certain situations where having low poise or zero poise is actually more advantageous than having any poise at all. Which is why I really hope that the toggle escape is in the Dark Souls Remastered, because it's just another point for, hey, zero poise builds are perfectly viable. Cat, just sit down, please. Make yourself comfortable, god damn it. One of those situations is with something like Wrath of the Gods, where if you have sufficient poise, it will topple you, and someone might be able to chain that into just a regular hit, or even a backstab. You know, that can be a very damaging combo. Whereas if you have zero poise, you're going to get knocked on your ass and they can't do anything to you. In fact, you might be able to do a wake-up parry, you know, upon your recovery. And another thing is this very special combination that exists because there is poise. Because we have Dark Souls 1 poise, we can pull this off. And let me see if I can actually pull it off. Parry, left, fucked it up. There we go. That's called a burrito. It's a technique that very advanced... Holy shit, we just got a slap. Those things are so rare. Oh my god. Back onto the topic of the burrito. That is an incredibly advanced technique. Well, not really incredibly advanced, but it's a technique frequently used by advanced players who like to use dual wielding. Popularized by Peeve Peeverson, named by God knows who, but I kind of want to slap him for the name. I mean, come on, burrito? Really? What? Someone sure loves their Mexican food, huh? But as you can see, it's just giving me that little bit of damage output. Thing is, that combo would not be possible if you're rocking zero poise. Because if you get hit by the left-handed attack, you're going to get stunned. If you get hit by anything, you're going to get stunned. So once again, it's reducing the damage that you take in a very specific circumstance. And I know, again, it is very specific. Much like the Wrath of the Gods example, very, very specific. But if you're playing against someone who's an extremely experienced player, they might be trying to pull these combinations off on you. And if you've got zero poise, you can actually avoid them. On top of that, playing with zero poise really tests your skill as a player. You really have to get your spacing right, like I did not right there, but because I had poise I could just kind of walk through it. Ah, fucked it up. Fucked it up again. Let's just go here. So again, I just... This all stems from... Or these frustrations about poise kind of all stem from someone making an observation that if Dark Souls 1 poise returns, then people are just going to stack poise and we're just going to have a bunch of Havel mages again. And it just isn't true. You know, because in Dark Souls 1, in order to have high amounts of poise, you have to wear high amounts of armor or sacrifice a ring slot. You can't... Not anymore anyway, you can't just stack a shit ton of poise, a shit ton of defense, and ninja flip around like you can in Dark Souls 3, where you have like really good armor and you can still fast roll because you're under 70%. That doesn't exist in Dark Souls 1. If you want super heavy armor that gives you a shit ton of poise, you're either going to have to invest a crap ton in endurance, which means you're not investing in other stats, or you're just going to have to suck up the mid-roll. You know? It kind of forces you to choose. And if you choose low poise, I don't know why I healed there, it was a bit pointless, but if you choose to go 0 poise, there are these advantages that not a lot of people realise, I feel like. You know? What am I trying to increase here? I don't know. Oh, I want to reinforce some weapons. Because this is a mage build, I wanted to level up the spear so I could transform it into the Moonlight Spear, or whatever that thing's called. I could make a plus 15 rapier, but I'm not going to. Let's think. The regular shards are 800 each, which means I need 2,000. Large shards are... No, I need 4,000. And for large shards I need 20,000 for enough of them. Is that correct? That's wrong. That's very wrong. I don't know where I'm pulling that maths from. I need 9 shards and 9 large shards. God, why do I not do more mental maths? My mental arithmetic is seriously lacking right now. But it's all good. We'll just gather a bunch of souls and then spend it, right? Part of me kind of feels like I shouldn't really be farming the Dark Wraith, since I'm going to be doing a shit ton of that once the remaster comes out. But another part of me is like, yeah, but I like it. As much as it is kind of a pain in the ass to farm up a bunch of materials to upgrade all of your equipment, I actually kind of like it. It's kind of cathartic for me. I get to just put on some music in the background, put on my favourite podcast, or some videos like Epic Neighbor or something, just listen to that in the background whilst I just kill some Dark Wraiths. Get some stuff that I need, upgrade some materials, get myself PvP ready, and, you know, get a good thinking out of it as well. That is a fun combination. I've never actually done it before. I did it once off camera, like literally just before I started recording. I gave it a go, pulled it off, and I was like, oh, yes! Very excited. Oof. I think the trick is to hit the R1 as soon as your character can move, because you really have a short window. If you wait too long, then you're not going to get it. If you do it too fast, then it's just going to come out as an R1 like that. Oh. So you got to wait to be able to move. And you see, he got staggered out of the riposte animation, or the parried animation, which meant I couldn't parry him, or riposte him rather. Fumbling all my words up. But again, like, if you have 0 poise, you can't get affected by that. If you have poise, you can get hit by that. Or rather, if you have sufficient poise to withstand whatever weapon they're going to do it with you. You know? What are you doing? Heavy. Alright. I'm becoming quite a fan of this riposte. But if I try it against... like some crystal hollows or something, then I'm not going to be able to do it. I know I'm kind of riding this point home, but I feel like it's an important discussion to have, because as previously stated, a lot of people think that stacking poise is the answer, but it just isn't. It doesn't give you everything. It's like, you don't need poise to be a good player, or you don't need poise to be successful, you don't need a shield to be successful, you don't need to have a stupid amount of vitality to be successful, you don't need to fast roll to be successful. you just need to be a good player. It's all in the skill, you know. Let's try that. Hey! Not normally confident on parrying Dark Wraiths on the first strike, but sometimes I do. Oh, and a Dark Hand as well as 2 chunks. Good God. That guy was very generous. Not as generous as the guy who gave me a slab, though. That was very kind. I've farmed a lot of Dark Wraiths, and I can safely say I've probably farmed a total of 5 Titanite slabs in my entire lifetime of playing Dark Souls. Because they just have a ridiculously low drop rate. Note too that I only have 8 humanity. Such is the desire sensor, right? That's probably enough. Souls. 34,000. Yeah. Whoops. Just trying to think, like, what other ring would I want on this build? Lingering could be a good idea if I decide to go buffs. I don't know. I suppose, too, this is a good kind of... It's a good thing that I am actually investing time into this character, even though the remaster's coming out. I mean, let's be frank, the remaster could suck. It is entirely possible that they screw the PvP super bad and everyone just buggers off back to Dark Souls 1. And if that happens, then hey-oh, I have a build. And you'll be seeing a lot of Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition PvP, as well as some Remastered. Because there definitely seems to be a decent amount of negativity. Well, rather negativity towards the PC version, because it's like... The graphics on... No, I meant to purchase something from you. The graphics on the PC, or just in general for the remastered, I gotta be honest, I don't like the way they look. They are incredibly, like, whitewashed. Or, not really whitewashed, but, like... They're not subtle, let's put it that way. They stand out in a very bizarre and unfortunately jarring manner. You know? Right, do I have a... No, I don't. I'll try not to. No guarantees. Right. Well, I'll rest at this bonfire just in case I don't succeed. In getting to the top of Sens. Which is entirely possible, you know. But yeah, Dark Souls Remastered, it looks like it was like all of the textures were drawn with pastels. It looks really weird. Like everything's super bright, and they somehow managed to remove the grittiness and the griminess from Dark Souls. It's no longer Dark Souls. It's more like Flowery Souls or something. You know, it's very strange. And with PC, obviously, you have a shit ton of mods that can make the game look infinitely superior to what you're watching. You know, and what you're watching is, you know, I mean, it's not the best Dark Souls could look, but for the base Prepare to Die edition with no mods, it looks pretty good. You know? But then Dark Souls is a game that's aged incredibly well. The game is 6.5 years old at this point. 6.5 years. Shit, I don't have enough souls. Well, I need 3 more. So, 12,000. Not the end of the world. Do I have a soul item that I could cheekily use? That's not going to give me enough. Is it? I don't think so. Is that going to give me 10,000 souls? No, 3,000. I thought not. I thought it would give me like 8,000 at a push. I haven't memorized the amount of souls that the soul items give you. I just don't really care. Well, apart from the first two. Like the first one, like the smallest one's 200 and the next one after that is like 400. But alas. At least we can ascend our spear. Alright. Back down to New Londo. I'm a little disappointed at the moment that I haven't taken on the Hydra yet. What are you doing? Get out. Out of my way. And the reason for that is it's defeating the Hydra will actually allow me to get my favourite sorcery in the entire game. You know, because you kill the Hydra, you reload the game, you kill the Gold Golem, you get Dusk of Ula Seal, right? And you might be thinking, oh, you like Chameleon, do you? No, I haven't really used Chameleon, so I can't really say too much on it. It's actually Cast Light. You probably just think it did a double take, like, what? Hang on. You said Cast Light? Do I need to get my ears checked? Cast Light? What? If you can make it through the Tomb of the Giants without needing a Skull Lantern, why the fuck would Cast Light be your favourite sorcery? It's completely useless outside of the Tomb of the Giants. And you're right, it is completely useless. But remember what I said about farming Dark Wraiths? It's like, I do it so much, and I like to just sort of listen to other videos whilst doing it. And when you use Cast Light in New Londo Ruins, there's just something about it. It makes it feel so comfy. Because there's just this, like, yellowy orange glow. Kind of like sun touched. If you've ever seen, like, early in the morning or in the evening, when the sun is just sort of kind of glistening. Well, yeah, it's called sun touched. In the morning, in the evening, that sort of like low sun kind of light level creates some really stunning visuals on like rocks, plants, buildings, whatever. And it just sort of creates that kind of effect for me. It's a pleasant feeling, especially when, you know, New Londo is this really grimy and dank place. Dank with the appropriate terminology, you know. It's dark and it's wet. It's dank. But Cast Light just makes it feel less scary. Which sounds really weird, but it's kind of true. So I will have to go kill the Hydra now to just show that off. For me, it's got no other purpose for me other than being a nice cosmetic change. To make a very bleak environment slightly less bleak. Ow. And parry. Alright. But I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on poise. Like, how much poise do you tend to run with, if any at all? Is there like a certain breakpoint that you tend to go towards, or is it just slap on a bunch of poise and see what happens sort of thing? Because that's how it is for me. I tend to just go, screw the breakpoints, I don't care. Just slap on some cool looking armor and whatever poise I get is like, oh hey, sweet benefit, right? Because everyone likes to go to a different amount of poise. A lot of PvPers like to go for certain breakpoints like Greatsword or Katana. The pros tend to go for like, I think it's 12, which is enough to survive one-handed Katana swing. And then there's of course 0 poise, like none at all. Nil pois. And I think the Damn it. I think the regular is like 53, which is enough to survive a one-handed greatsword swing. I think I'm getting pretty good at that. Might try and take it online where I'll fuck it up like 53 times before I actually get it right. But you know, that's just part of the course. But also, like, what build are you thinking? Are you guys thinking of using once the remaster comes out? Are you just gonna go with like a standard dexterity build, or I should say, like, what build are you gonna use first? Because I'm gonna be using a shit ton of builds, and I'm sure a lot of other people are gonna be using a shit ton of builds as well. But the big question is, what's gonna be your first build? Mine's gonna be the health regen knight, Dex Faith variant of it, using the server Sanctus replenishment, as I call it. Just a good old load of health regen. See how that works out for me. But there's always like some sort of cool, crazy setup that people use. Like, there are the standard kind of dex, strength, faith, int builds that pretty much are universal, you know? Everybody can make them, everybody can use them. They're pretty simple. There's not much that differentiates them apart from each other. But then there's always that one build that a lot of people have that is just so different from everything else you see. You know, they'll bring it out and you'll look at it and go, oh, wait, what? you have to stare at it for a second and think, wow, I've never seen anyone do that before. That's really cool. You know, I mean, of course, there will be someone who's used it before, but maybe it's not all that common, because what's really common is like buff builds and just a combination of, I think I fucked that up, yeah I did, combination of like strength and dexterity and whatever else, you know. Those are the super common builds that you see. So to see someone actually pull out something rather unconventional, or should I say something that isn't really used all that often, like a war pick or a mace or something like that, you know, it's just pleasant to see people using things that you don't normally see. And that's kind of what I like to do, you know, is I like to take some weapons that not many people use and try and figure out, okay, how do I take this underused weapon and how do I make it good? I did not ascend the spear, I am a schmuck. Alright. But with something like the war pick, it's not the pickaxe, the war pick. It's a hammer class weapon. Andre of the Store sells it. I'll show off in a minute. It's a decently powerful strength weapon. It's not super strong, but it's not weak either. You can't take it for granted. On top of that, it only deals thrusting damage. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Leo build. It can do a lot of damage with a Leo build. And I remember one time when I made like an anti-twink build, like a soul level 20 cleric to just sit in the parish and try and co-op with people to hopefully stop people from twinking them. That was my anti-twink weapon. I wanted to take it to like Chaos +5, but I was too bad at the game, so it just stayed at like Divine plus something or other. But it's still really powerful weapon. Not just in like low level PvP. I mean, anything that's maxed out is ridiculously powerful in low level PvP. Even like Priscilla's dagger, you know, which to be fair is a very good bleed weapon that I would like to use on this build at some point. Let's have a look-see. This thing, the war pick, only deals thrust damage. Not great scaling. I think it gets it's either a high C or a low B in strength. Has very low requirements and a very light weapon, but it deals some serious damage, and you just don't underestimate it. It's a very powerful weapon. Alright. So I need... Let's see... Just 3 more? Yeah, 3 more. And I have enough for it as well. Just 1 quick round of Dark Wraiths, that's all it took. I'm being a bit mindless, but, you know, I'm farming Dark Wraiths, what do you expect? My favourite pastime, aside from playing Dark Souls. But on the topic of, like, creative builds and builds that, like, not many people use, I'd like to finish the thought, like, I want to know what other people like to use. Like, what's their craziest setup? Because there are so many different things you can do. You can do, like, an all, like, ranged offense build where you're using, like, the dragon head stone I should say, the Moonlight Greatsword, some miracles, some pyromancy, some sorceries, just a bit of everything, and just trying to keep your opponent at bay and using a ton of ranged attacks. And yeah, see how you do with that. Alright, give me some thingamadoodles. 3, that is all I need. And I do have chunks, so I can immediately ascend it to plus 10. Do I ascend it to plus 10, or do I think I ascend it to plus 10 and then transmog it into a boss weapon. I think that's how it works. It's been a really long time since I've used a boss weapon. I think the last boss weapon that I used... Oh god, what would have been the last boss weapon I used? I generally don't use boss weapons. Probably like an Artorias sword. Which it still kind of annoys me that there are 3 of them. Because I'm always like, which one's the one that I should be using? And I always have to look it up on the wiki.dot just to be like, okay, this one does this one does that, and that one does that. Okay, I'm going to use this one. But I can't memorize it, man. I mean, I can memorize which one you get from what upgrade path. Like, the Cursed is the one from a regular greatsword or whatever. The True is the one where you get from the Broken Straight Sword. And the Abyss Sword is the one that you get from Artorias himself. Modify. Didn't upgrade first. What a numbnut, am I right? There we go. Now we ascend. And if that isn't correct, then we can always descend. Let's warp to Chamber of the Princess. How you doing, cat? Kind of want to rest just in case I die. Ooh! Full control. How about that? I love these utility sorceries, because no bugger uses them. Again, I know, I keep saying this. I love using stuff that barely anybody uses, because as long as you try, as long as you think about it hard enough, you will find a utility for near enough everything in the game. Even the pendant. Oh, the pendant. Oh dear. Alright. Who am I? Shut up. Make my weapon a boss weapon. Oh, you can use it on rapiers as well? Wow, I did not know that. Oh, I do have 2, don't I? Tin Dark Moon Catalyst, that's the one you get off of... yeah, Gwendolyn. And then that's Manus. That one actually has a lot of, physical damage and has really good strength scaling. Wait, that thing scales in faith? What? It scales in faith? Why? That thing requires strength, though. Very strange, but I need to gather some souls. So let's go kill some Silver Knights. I've been very bad at like retaining my train of thought, and I do apologize about that. Live commentaries are not my forte, but I do like to give them a go every now and again. Especially because there are some people out there who actually like to hear me rambling about all sorts of nonsense at the same time whilst I'm playing, which is something I'll personally never really understand. I mean, not like saying I don't like watching live commentaries of other people. Generally, I prefer post commentaries because the conversation is usually a little bit more concentrated. Owie. Bugger. And I'm dead. Told you there was a good reason to rest at the bonfire. Foresight. It's rarely ever 2020. But the creative builds kind of comment, I love seeing what kind of crazy stuff people come up with, and then I try them out myself, and then I go, ooh, I don't really like that, or I go, ooh, I really like this, And it just goes to show that you really don't have to use what's meta, You don't have to use what's popular. You can use whatever the hell you want, and if you're good enough, you can probably make it work. I don't know. I do just tend to get a bit tired of people following whatever the heck's meta. I mean, sure, whatever's meta's good, but there are a lot of other good things in this game as well. Alright. 5008. That'll be an interesting year. I need to sort out my inventory. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm probably never going to use. Might have noticed the Silver Knight Straight Sword in my inventory. Yeah, it's a dex weapon. On pretty much any dexterity build, if I can use the Silver Knight Straight Sword, I'm going to use the Silver Knight Straight Sword. It can be pretty hefty for certain builds, depending on how many stats you want to invest in strength or endurance, because it's a 6-unit weapon, which is pretty heavy for a straight sword. I believe, yeah, it's heavier than the Yaito. It's as heavy as a flamberge. A flamberge. A straight sword that is as heavy as a flamberge. I mean, sure, the flamberge is not a super heavy greatsword. I mean, the Black Knight swords are 8 units, but it's still like, and the Man Serpent's 10. But it's quite a heavy dexterity weapon. On top of that, it requires 16 strength, which, if you're planning on using something like the Murakumo or the Server, that's not too bad. That's not that big of a deal. But if you don't plan on going past like 14 strength or even 10 strength, that's kind of an investment just to go for 16, 6 whole soul levels. But it is a fun weapon. Where is my spear? There it is. I'm going to mid-roll with it. No, I'm not. What weight is it? Oh, 4 units. Holy shit, this thing's lighter than the katana? Good god. I don't think I've ever used this spear, so bear with me whilst I learn the moves. Get the stamina back. Whoops. Pretty standard. I mean, it's a spear. I don't really expect much excitement out of it, in all honesty. It's also definitely not the longest reaching spear. But it is pretty cool in the sense that it only deals magic damage. Right. I'm going to organise my bottomless box because there are weapons that I am just never going to use. Parrying dagger, yeah, I'm going to use. Nope, nope, nope. Why do I have so many things? Dude, this character has been getting extraordinarily lucky and it's been kind of annoying me. I don't need 2 gargoyle tail axes. 2 great axes? Good god, that must mean one of the, what are they called? The Knights of Baronique. Means one of them must have dropped it. Actually, let me take that back. And that. Alright, my inventory is a little bit cleaner. Not much cleaner, but a little bit cleaner. And back to farming. And with the gold covered surface ring. I'll put that on the elevator. Yeah, let's not put on the Ring of Favour. Because then I'd have to break it, because this build's not meant for the Ring of Favour. It's not intended to use it at all. I find myself running out of things to talk about in a live environment. Because there are a lot of topics that I enjoy talking about, like underrated weapons, certain techniques, zero poise, or the pros of zero poise. I think I said creative build. Certain techniques, certain mannerisms that the community has in this game which are really interesting, but half of them I've kind of already talked about and I don't really want to keep repeating myself, but in a live commentary format I'm inevitably going to keep repeating myself because I find it hard to keep track of what I've said and what I haven't said, as well as trying to keep a conversation going whilst I'm playing a video game. It all gets a bit much sometimes. You'll have to forgive me for not being the best at live commentaries. I would have to, unfortunately. Fucking hell, dude. What? That's the second one in the same video. Are you kidding me? Fucking 398 item discovery meta, you know? Screw 40 whatever it is. Nah, that's not how you do it. You go with fucking 398. Fucking 8 humanity and gold covered a serpent ring. You get all the slabs in the world. Good god, dude. That's crazy. Oh my god. And the game loves to just keep interrupting my train of thought. What I was about to say is, please don't expect me to do live commentaries for Invasions. There's no way I can do it. It's just going to be a lot of mumbling and me just going, alright, okay, yeah, and there you go. Oh, I think I fucked that up. Whereas at least with the PvE, I can I'm kind of used to it, you know. There's a lot more things, or there's a lot less things that I have to consider. And the less things there are to consider, the more my brain can focus on commentary. Give me a hug. There's a hug with some knives involved, but, you know. But I mentioned a little bit earlier about PvP mannerisms. That is one hell of a rabbit hole that I'm probably going to leave for either a PvP commentary or a later episode of Quenching the Thirst. Because there is so much to talk about when it comes to that, you know. And just in general, like, the community as a whole, not individual people, but the community as a whole, with all of the opinions that people share collectively, creates a very hypocritical environment. And again, I'm not saying that individual people are necessarily hypocritical, but I'm just saying that if you take every single opinion that people in the community have and you put them together, you have conflicting opinions, you have hypocrisy. Everywhere you look, you have people who say that you should never chain backstab. You have other people who say that you can chain backstab, but only in certain situations. You have some people who say, oh, if you do this, then I'll heal, and there are other people who say, I'll only heal if you heal first. You know? And it all just gets very ridiculous. It's like, if you use a Hornet Ring, then that is the same as me healing, or like that makes it okay for me to heal. And then someone else is like, oh, you healed, which means it's okay for me to heal. And then the other person is like, no, you've just made two wrongs. And it's just like, what can you do? You know? Which is why I'm a little bit anxious to do dueling, because there's so many formalities, so many rules that people abide by. And sure, I can abide by them, you know, I'm not someone who generally chain backstabs or parry fishes or any of that sort of stuff, unless I'm in a 2v1 situation. Then I'm going to use everything up my sleeve, you know. But that's a very key distinction, is like the condition that you're under. You know, a lot of people think that some of these, what would you say, honor codes, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that they are absolute, and it doesn't matter what your condition is, you should uphold these standards no matter what. Other people, like myself, think everything's conditional. You know, situations changed, opinions change. My desire to win might have changed over my desire to just have fun or improve my ability. I might go from sort of being like kind of a tame invader, just trying to mess around, see what's going on, see if I can't do some cool stuff, and I might just go to all out for blood and just try and murder you as quickly as possible, you know, because situations change. Maybe the person used a divine blessing or something like that. I don't really want to get too much into my opinions, because that's another rabbit hole that, as previously stated, I don't really want to get too much into, because it will end up elongating this video pretty nastily, and I won't be able to talk about, or I won't be able to convey what I'm trying to say in a very coherent manner. It's just one of the advantages of doing a post commentary, is being able to have a coherent conversation when it's important. If I'm doing a live commentary, then it can be a little bit harder, and I might say something that I don't mean, I might say something in the wrong order, I might jump to conclusions, and it can just be very, very nasty, and it will just give people the wrong idea. You know? So I'm just thinking, like, I'll save my opinions for another episode of, like, what my conditions are and what I do and all that sort of stuff, how I respond. That would be for another video, probably a post commentary, like I said. But I'm gonna make some observations this episode, because I started talking about it even though I said I wouldn't. I'm a smart person. Ah, I'm surprised that hit me. What are you doing, cat? Alright, well, we're getting a decent amount of souls. I'm just trying to think, like, where's the... Oh. I was thinking where the, infinitely respawning Titanite demon is. It's in Lost Isles, isn't it? Mumble our way to victory. Isn't that just English, though? Just a lot of mumbling. A load of different languages just jumbled together to try and formulate some sort of language. Who cares if it's, you know, complete or if it doesn't make sense? It's a language, it counts. And everybody has to learn it. Oh dear. Do you think the human race will ever invent a new language that everybody has to learn? And then we all use that one language as our main language? And then all the other languages will just become like Latin or Welsh, where it's like, you can learn it if you want, but it's not going to give you an advantage over someone else. Like, because there's nobody who speaks it. Except for people who like to show off. Or natives of Wales, actually. They speak Welsh. Alright. I was about to be flabbergasted at him dropping another slab. I've gotten way too many slabs than this character fucking deserves. It's like, save these slabs for the remastered when I play that on PS4. Like, for goodness sakes. Please. Desire sensor, just save it all. Save it all for when I need you most. Don't go crazy on me now. Alright. But conditional PvP, right? Again, I said, like, oh yeah, I'm not going to get too much into my opinions, yada yada yada. But the one thing I want to make very, very clear is, I think opinions are or not really opinions, but I think certain methods, certain actions are very much conditional. You know, you might not chain backstab in a 1v1 environment, but you might chain backstab in a 2v1 environment. Or maybe you're fighting a hacker. Obviously, you're not going to be particularly polite to a hacker. You know? Like, why should you bow to a hacker? Why should you not chain backstab a hacker? Why should you not stun lock them, because it's like they've got infinite life. They've got such an unfair advantage that you can't beat them using conventional methods. So, you know, you're gonna show these people respect? And I'm like, I understand. Oh, how should I put this? Because it's like, as much as I don't like people hacking, I do kind of understand it, both in PvE and PvP. The PvP is a lot more understandable, you know. You want to beat people who are better than you, but you just can't, so you resort to hacking. That one's depressing as all sin, because it means that you can't be bothered to get good at the game, as the Dark Souls meme kind of implies, you know, get good. You can't be bothered to do that, so you just resort to using the cheapest of tactics. It's not even like Hornet Ring Backstab Fish or Dark Bead Spam. This is full on, I've got infinite life, you can't physically kill me. Right? And with the PvE, again, like, as much as I don't like it, I understand it. It's like, I'm not having fun with this game, I just want to beat it, I just want to get my money's worth. And I'm going to do that by any means necessary. And to me, it's like, I understand that, sure, but it's like, this is Dark Souls. You're not going to have a good time with it on your first time through. You're going to get put through the mud. You're going to have a horrible time. You're going to get beat up on a lot. But you're going to learn to get better, and that's what this game is all about. If you just skip that, if you just, like, hack and get infinite stats, then you've completely defeated the entire purpose of this game. You're gonna completely miss all of the ambience, all of like the world building, and all of the sense of accomplishment that you get from actually playing this game as it's intended. You know, just gonna completely skip all of that. Like, is that really right? Is that really something you're okay with doing? Because it's not something I'd ever be okay with doing, but then, look at me. Beating up Dark Wraiths like it's no big deal, right? I got to this point, but it's not like I got to this point overnight. You know? The first 3 months I played Dark Souls, I sucked at it. It's the closest I've ever come to throwing a controller across the room. Closest I've ever come to punching a hole in the wall. You know? It wasn't fun, those first 3 months, but you know, I stuck with it. Except I didn't. I rage quit after like a week, left it like 3 or 4 months, came back to it, still sucked, but I wanted to persevere. I had the motivation to persevere because I knew that it could be done, because I'd seen people play it online. I was like, these people can do it. They've put in the time, the effort. I'm gonna do the same. This game is awesome. I love the world, I love the controls, I love the ambience, but I'm bad at it. So I decided I don't want to be bad anymore, so I got good, you know? And hey, now it's one of my favourite games ever of all time. Because I had to get good at it, because I sucked, because I raged, and like when I came back to it, I have to say, I was still not particularly good at it. I still sucked. Most of the time, I would get to Anor Londo and then start a new character, because I found Anor Londo extremely difficult. Or rather, or even when I beat Anor Londo, a lot of the time I would just quit and restart, because I felt like, hey, that's like the biggest hurdle of the game. Or I didn't know it was the biggest hurdle of the game, but for me it was like, that was the best part, just trying to get to Anor Londo, and I didn't really know what to do next, so I just restarted. That's just a strategy that I have when I play video games, is that if I ever get stuck or lost, I have a tendency to restart all the way from the beginning, just to see if I can find something that I missed, or to maybe find a new strategy that I didn't use my first time around. Maybe that it will help me this time around. I don't know why I do that. I don't know what caused me to come up with this sort of method for trying to beat hard games. But that's just how I used to deal with them. Now I kind of chin up and push through them. Head first, you know. But you're missing out on all of that if you hack. Like, sure, it's miserable, but it's meant to be miserable. Like, I have to be blunt. Dark Souls is meant to be miserable. You know? It's meant to give you a hard time. But that's kind of, in a very odd and sadistic manner, that's kind of the charm of it. You know? Damn you. There you go. I'm liking this combo. I've been very casually pulling it off fairly consistently throughout this farming session. Feels good, man. Feels good. It's one of those techniques that once you know about it, you can put it into practice against the PvE. And once you kind of got it down against the PvE, you can kind of try and pick it up into the PvP. If you have the confidence, though. Which I probably will not have the confidence, because I'll be too busy trying to dual wield. And dual wielding is not easy, as far as I can tell. Never done it. There's so many things that I just haven't done in Dark Souls. Again, that's like one of the great things about it, is like there are so many tactics, so many playstyles, so many setups that most of us just haven't tried. You know, people get bored of Dark Souls. They kind of find like, I'm kind of getting tired of this. Like, I've kind of done everything there is to do. Kind of struggling to find the entertainment out of it. Well, chances is you probably haven't tried everything. And I don't mean that to be disparaging or like saying, oh no, you really have not tried everything. Like, I know everything that you've ever done. But it's more like there are so many things in this. There are so many different things in this game, like oral decoy. Who uses oral decoy? It's a great sorcery that I'm going to pick up. Give me that. And I'm probably never going to use it. And I've got no souls. But it's like there's so many things in this game that have some sort of a use that people just don't think to use because they forget it exists, because nobody uses them. It's kind of this cyclical thing where it's like you don't think that there's a use for it, so you don't use it. So you don't see other people using it, so you forget about it, so you don't use it. And it just keeps going and going and going and going. And eventually, someone finds this cool little secret, this cool little tactic, makes a video on it, and then people go, huh, I forgot about that. Maybe I should try that. You know? It's like dual wielding. I saw some Dark Souls 1 PvP videos of some people dual wielding, and I just thought, I've never tried dual wielding. Like, I know it's pretty decent in PvP, even though I've never really tried it myself. I've seen a lot of people have a lot of success with it, but I've never tried it in PvE, let alone PvP, so let's try it in PvE, and actually, it's good fun. I'd recommend you give it a go. It's not easy, much like any new tactic. Like if you're a Dex main, and you're trying a strength, like tanky strength build, it's going to be pretty hard. Or if you're used to being a tanky strength kind of guy, it can be very difficult to transition to a Dex user using fast swinging weapons and doing a lot of parries and stuff like that. If you're not used to it, it's hard to do. So, you know, much like anything in Dark Souls, it takes practice, but it becomes very satisfying and very rewarding once you've figured it out. And doing this burrito combo is kind of a part of that. Again, as much as I think it's a stupid name. Again, no disrespect to whoever came up with it. It's a great technique, but you could have come up with a better name for it. I don't know what I would have called it. Probably the two-hit riposte. But, you know. Who knows? Yeah, there's always something new to try. You just haven't found it yet. Which is why I kind of asked for everybody's, like, craziest, weirdest build earlier in the video, is because, like, I want to know what is the craziest, weirdest thing that you use that you don't see a lot of other people using. You know? Because there's got to be something out there. I remember seeing a Dark Project Mayhem video where he used Undead Report. Undead Report. If you don't know what that pyromancy does, which I don't blame you, it essentially turns an undead from an enemy into an ally. So they'll fight by your side and they'll attack your enemies. This includes invaders. It's essentially a miniature Seed of a Tree of Giants. Not quite as powerful because it can't affect every enemy. But still, like, all things considered, that's pretty powerful, especially if you're in, like, New Game +7, you get invaded, and then you just Undead Report one of the enemies. They're probably going to, like, 2 or 3 shot your opponent. Yet nobody uses it. Because why would you? It's such a random pyromancy where, and if you're fighting a boss, it's not going to help you unless you use it on the skeletons. But then it doesn't affect every enemy. I don't think it affects Dark Wraiths. It might not even affect skeletons. I'm sure it does not affect Black Knights. It definitely doesn't affect NPCs. So it's just this, like, again, really obscure, really bizarre pyromancy that not many people use, but is actually very powerful, and, you know, you really should consider giving them a go. Oh my good god. Very expensive.
Heading out, are you? I too will leave soon. Undead, you have great potential.
Okay. I mean, I'll die over nothing. It's just I'll go get back my souls, you know? I only have a +2 Estus, which means that I haven't actually gotten the Firekeeper soul from Blighttown. Why have I not done that? I'll get a couple more souls, spend them on, like, Soul Mass or something, and then I'll do a suicide run. Alright. But also there's, like, this idea that if you use the same strategy all the time, or you use the same setup, there are certain tactics or certain pieces of equipment that you eventually become dependent on in your playstyle. Say, for example, the Dark Woodgrain ring. That is an incredibly powerful ring which basically removes all of your instability frames in your roll, as well as essentially doubling your iframes, and gives you this really long distance roll. It is incredibly powerful, to the point where they had to nerf it, because it used to be that you could get the Dark Woodgrain ring even if you're in mid-roll territory, which made it even more ridiculous, because think about it. You've essentially got the Dark Souls 3 roll right there. You've got good armor, great poise, and the best roll in the game. That should not be allowed. You should have to sacrifice something. So thankfully they nerfed it to where you have to be fast rolling to be able to wear the Dark Woodgrain ring. And with some builds, that's just not possible depending on the equipment that you're using. You know, because you might have to use Havels and Fap to be able to fast roll. that's 2 ring slots, you don't have enough room for the dark wood grain ring. Right? But before the patch, you'd see everybody just in super heavy armor and ninja flipping all over the place. Pretty much to the point where they became dependent on that ring. You know, and you just sort of thought, like, what's going to happen to these people when they don't have their beloved dark wood grain ring anymore? Like, are they going to get good? Are they going to learn the fast roll or the mid roll? Or are they just going to, like, not be able to play? Because they've become so dependent on the mobility and the invincibility that the Darkwood Grain Ring provides that they can't play with anything but the Darkwood Grain Ring. Like, are they just going to redesign all of their builds to make it so they can use it? Or are they going to adapt? Same can be said with katanas or greatswords or any weapon that you're particularly comfortable with, or the Hornet Ring or whatever, you know? Certain tactics like parrying or backstab fishing, if you become too reliant on it, then you're never going to get better. And if you become super reliant on it to the point where that's all you use, well, no shit, you're going to get bored, because that's all you're doing. You're not mixing it up at all. Now, is that to say that maybe you should never use that anymore? No. You know, you've got to have a comfort build. You've got to have a playstyle that you can fall back onto if you really want to. Ow. But, like, it's to say that if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, it's no surprise that you're going to get bored with the game. You know? Because you're not mixing it up. Again, on my channel, I'd like to promote variety and kind of messing around. You motherfucker. Messing around with different builds and all of that sort of stuff. Playing different games, playing those games in very different ways. But some people get very, very comfortable with a singular playstyle to the point where they don't mix it up. That was close. You know? And they play it over and over and over again and again and again, and it's all they do, and then they wonder why they get bored so quick. You know? Alright, swap this out to bellowing, because I'm not going to be needing the thingamadoodle. Buy up all of that. Don't really need anything else right this instant. Got ourselves 70 homeward bones, which is always nice for farming. I know I keep raving about these utility miracles, but they are nice, you know. Homewood. Homewood is quite a nice miracle, just because you don't have to keep buying homeward bones. You just use the miracle. So if your character's going to be using faith anyway, then why not pick it up? Especially if you're going to be doing a shit ton of farming. You know, the more farming you do, the more it's going to pay for itself eventually. Just in terms of how many homeward bones you'll have saved. Alright, time to go to Blighttown. Not New Londo, Blighttown. Gotta put that in my head so I don't accidentally start farming dark wraiths again. Because it could happen. Could well happen. Send that back up. Because I was probably going to die. I'd lose all of my 8 humanity. No, my 398 item discovery. My new meta that I found. Oh well. Alright, almost got toxic there. No. Excuse me. Oh, I only got one of them? Get out of here. Don't hit me through a wall, you numbnut. Yeah, get over here, scrubber. Good thing is I can take 2 of these blow darts before I get toxic. And because they don't do any poise damage, or they don't do enough poise damage, I can just tank one. Oh no, I fell down! Ow, that does a lot of damage. Oh, climb, you monkey. Oh, for fuck's sake. Alright, well, there's my bloodstain. None of these fuckers dropped a blooming. That's so frustrating. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, we got the Firekeeper source. Let's see if we can't get our bloodstain as well. Bloodstain retrieval. And homeward bound. Woo! Alright. Well, that was successful and a half. Just before a failure, anyway. Or after, rather. Getting my tenses confused. Yeah, sorry. Sorry you're alive. Anyway. So now we actually have a +3 Estus Flask, which is nice. I think we'll end it off here because I probably accidentally ended up recording this session for about an hour or so. It is what it is. It is what I do. I like to talk. I like to ramble. I like to play Dark Souls. It is how it happens, right? But anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.